going to talk about utilitarian cotton wovens. And these are the workhorses of our cotton category. They're mainly used for utilitarian purposes and not often found in garments, but they're worth talking about. Let's not forget them. They're not as pretty or exciting as some of our other cottons, but they do the job. Chintz. Chintz refers to any cotton plain weave that is densely woven and has a shiny glazed finish. This finish is chemically applied to the fabric after it's woven and dyed or printed. Traditionally, it was a wax coating, but is more often seen as a chemical finish today. And we'll talk a little bit more about these types of finishes in our finish section. The shiny glaze helps to make the fabric water and stain resistant. Therefore, it's commonly used for outdoor furniture, raincoats, and even tablecloths, as they can resist the spills from fabrics. They can resist rain and hold up very well. They're quite durable. Again, they're most often used in upholstery, but can sometimes be used for garments. They are often found in brightly colored patterns and prints, so much so that a word called chintzy typically refers to something a little bit loud and tacky and brightly colored, which gives chintz a bad name, but it doesn't need to be tacky, and it has its purpose. But of course, chintz mainly refers to the fact that it's a cotton plain weave that is strong and densely woven, and of course finished with a shiny glaze. So it can be any solid color or other. Muslin. Every fashion student knows muslin. It might be one of the first fabrics that fashion students become intimately acquainted with. Muslin is much like one of the other fabrics we'll be talking about in this category, canvas, but it is much more lightweight and less durable. It usually comes in a plain weave with single-plied yarns, but can come in a variety of weights, but none typically get as heavy as canvas can get. Muslin is mainly used as a test or working fabric for students and designers, but can be made into finished garments. We also almost always find muslin unbleached and undyed. So it's this natural sort of off-white color, often speckled, which is characteristic of our undyed and unbleached cotton. Canvas. So, we were talking about canvas before, and again, just like muslin, it's made from a plain weave fabric that is typically undyed and unbleached. So we see that same color tone with little flecks of different colorations that are natural to our cotton fiber, little imperfections there. However, canvas can be made from linen and hemp as well. In fact, it's often traditionally made from hemp because hemp is so strong, and canvas needs to be strong. Canvas is made for strength, and because it is, the yarns are almost always plied, ranging from 2-ply all the way up to 14-ply. My goodness. This makes for a strong, durable, and stiff fabric. Canvas was originally developed to make sails for ships, as it is so strong, but it is best known today for its use to make artist canvases and tote bags. It usually comes unbleached and undyed, but can be dyed or bleached if needed. Duck is a type of canvas that is usually a bit heavier and rougher, but many times the names can be used interchangeably. ticking. So ticking and canvas have a lot of similarity. They are both durable, heavy, tightly woven plain weaves, although sometimes we can see ticking in a twill weave or jacquard versions, or even variations. So here we can see a plain weave ticking. Here looks like a twill weave ticking, and here they've combined the both. You see a little bit of twill, a little bit of plain weave, gives a bit of a texture. We typically see small stripes also used in ticking, but it can be a fully dyed or just plain version as well. Ticking is very strong and is not often used for garments, but we typically see it as a cover for box springs and mattresses. It's a durable option for most upholstery. Next, we're going to take a look at cotton knits. A lot of these varieties we've looked at before in our knit section, but we'll review them. First, we must review jersey. We talked a lot about jersey, and again, jersey can be found in all different types of fibers, synthetic and natural. However, the most common jersey you will find is the cotton jersey. From t-shirts to underwear, cotton jersey again is a fabric that is probably owned by all in some manner or form. It is comfortable, lightweight, and versatile. Cotton sweater knits. So sweater knits are typically any knit fabric that is a little bit thicker and has a sort of knit texture to them. And of course, we talked a lot about the different knit patterns that we can knit into a fabric in our knit section. Here we see a lovely little rib and another lovely knit pattern up here. And we don't typically think of cottons as being our sweater knits. And again, sweater knits, anything sort of knit together for the intent to be made into a sweater, sweater dress or like garment. And again, we think of these heavier knits as being in the realm of wool or acrylic, but cotton is sometimes used to make these knits, and we can categorize this area of fabrics as cotton sweater knits. They are knit with all the same knit patterns that any other fiber can be knit in. And though cotton is not known for being warm, quite the opposite in fact, this fabric can still be suitable for customers in warmer climates where warmth is not important but still want a sweater look. So if we're heading into spring, summer, or we're selling in a warm climate where we might just want a light sweater or something that's not super warm as a little cover up, we want the beautiful aesthetic of our knit patterns, but we don't want to get too hot, cotton is a good choice for going in between, balancing out a nice aesthetic for a sweater, but not making it too warm or too hot, so still wearable in different warmer climates or warmer seasons. Sweatshirt and pants knit. Most commonly, hoodies, sweatshirts, and sweatpants will be made from cotton. A lot of times, synthetics will be blended in, and sometimes they'll be made all of synthetic. But since we want to be comfortable, and the original intent for a sweatshirt or sweatpants was to work out in, we want something that will wick sweat away from our body, hence the name sweatshirt. So we typically use cotton. Now, sweatshirt cotton or sweatshirt knit really is a general term for a wide variety of different fabric types that are suitable to make these garments. Now, in our knit section, we saw that we typically make sweatshirts or sweatpants from a French terry or a fleece knit. However, there's many different varieties of knit cotton that are suitable for this type of garment, and they all fall into this broader terminology of sweatshirt or sweatpant knit. They are all heavy in weight, thick and spongy. It is also common to see the weight of the fabric listed in either ounces per yard or grams per meter in the fabric description of these fabrics. This gives the designer an idea of how bulky the fabric is. Last, we'll cover crochet. Now crochet, I probably should have covered crochet and knitting. It looks like knitting. It's done a lot like knitting. It uses loops like knitting. However, it is different, slightly. The techniques for knitting and crochet are very similar, but the main difference, besides the tools used, and we'll talk about that in a minute, is that when you crochet, you make every stitch fully completed as you go. So you fully complete a stitch before you start another one. However, when you knit, you leave a loop open for another loop to go through. And only when that second loop goes through it is the stitch completed. So, when we knit, we leave a loop or stitch open, and it waits to be completed until the next row or course is completed. In crocheting, we complete every stitch at the time. The texture of crocheting will look different than knitting. You won't get that V shape for the knit stitch, or that sort of interlocking oval shapes for the purl stitch on the back. But in any case, crochet, you can have any number of different types of crocheting patterns, just like with knits. And we can crochet is often used to make very lace-like structures, as seen here. It can look a lot like a Rachel knit, but made slightly differently. Here we see a hobbyist crocheting, and it looks an awful lot like a knit. Indeed, it is a lot like a knit. But here we see another one of the differences. Whereas knitting uses two needles that come to a tapered point, crochet uses one hook needle. So it's hard to see, but instead of the two needles used for knitting hobbyists, crochet hobbyists will use one hooked, or sometimes more, needle. And again, crochet can be done using yarns of any fiber. However, cotton is really a very popular choice for crochet. Crochet typically has less stretch than knit, but again, is capable of the wide range of patterns that knit use. And just like knitting, it's a popular hobby for people to undergo. Here we see, again, all the different examples of crocheting. A sort of lace crochet, one that resembles knit, and we can also use crochet to make standalone embellishments as well. That concludes our deep dive on cotton. Hopefully you feel a bit more familiar with all your different types of cotton fabrics and with cotton in general.